Thank you. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members, and good evening. We have a member of the public here, and welcome to the Joint Transportation Board. We'll start with a little bit of housekeeping. We're not expecting a fire alarm, so if it's activated, please vacate the building via the stairs, and please do not use the lifts. I suspect we won't be assembling in Hawley Square on the Green tonight, but officers will, of course, assist you. Mobile phones, could everyone present please ensure their mobile phone is switched to silent and that they're not used to make or receive calls in the chamber while this meeting is in progress. This is being filmed for the public. If filming takes place here, anyone in attendance in the public area may have their image captured. I'm not sure if anyone is actually going to be filming tonight, and I'm getting a shake of the head, so we'll move on. Does any member wish to speak under 20.1? No. In which case we will go straight on to agenda item 1, which is apologies for absence. Have we any other apologies for absence? We already have Councillor Shonk, I believe.
Barry Lewis and Rob Yates.
Barry Lewis and Rob Yates.
Councillor Crawford.
And Councillor Cornford. Thank you. Any others? Thank you very much. We are quorate, so we all continue. Agenda item 2 is declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? No. Agenda item 3, the minutes of the Joint Transportation Board meeting held on the 12th of October, which I was not present at, but are councillors happy to approve this and sign as a correct, so it can be signed as a correct record? Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Derek Brown, Corral Brown, and a seconder, Councillor Scobie. All happy with that?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Tonight we move on, before we move on to agenda item 4, as all of you are aware, we have been informed that the area manager and Richard Heaps will not be attending tonight. I have spoken to Simon Jones, who is the corporate director for highways, who, if something could be arranged, is happy for officers to attend either in office hours or online if outside of office hours. Did you wish to speak at all on this, or have you any update? Okay, in which case, members, if they would kindly let me know at some point if you are interested in a solution which is either online. We could also possibly do online if the agreement is changed between us and between TDC and KCC. But I welcome comments on whether you would prefer to have this during the day so that the public can participate, or in the evening online. I think this is something we've got to think about, because there is only one way for the public to participate, and that is if it's here in the chamber at the moment. And I'm not sure that we could, I'm not sure if we could at present cope with a hybrid, or no, we couldn't. Councillor Wright.
This might sound a little bit off the wall, but is there any reason why we could, if we could have our meeting and a Zoom link to the officers, that would be fine, but we can't live stream. So could we not have, I know it's expensive to make it into a hybrid meeting, but would the answer not be maybe a video camera, so that the meeting is videoed in the chamber and then posted after the meeting?
I'm not really.
Would you like to answer a little on that, because I'm not aware of what TDC has or does not have here?
If that's okay, Chair, thank you. Now, excuse my ignorance, because it isn't my area of expertise, it is democratic services, but it's to do with the legislation and how we hold the meetings. So they have to be held in accordance with a government act. Don't want to say which one it is because I'll get it wrong. So that's the reason why we can't, they've either got to be live streamed to be able to be in accordance with that act. So that's the difficulty. Because it changed in COVID, we could do things differently. It's now gone back to the original act and we can't do it that way. as much as we might like to find a solution.
This is a work in progress. There are all sorts of solutions that have been offered, but it is very much in the lap of TDC as to what they can or cannot do here. So, moving on, we have agenda item 4, which is parking places for disabled persons' vehicles. That's pages 9 to 16. Have you members read this, and have they any comments? Any comments at all? Councillor Scobie.
I think we should advertise. These people need the spaces.
Well, the recommendations are, we're recommended to go for option 1, that the parking places for disabled persons' vehicles, as listed in Annex 1, would be exposed to formal public consultation. Are members happy to agree that?
Agreed.
Thank you. And the second part of that is that the proposals which require statutory consultation are advertised, and that any traffic-related objections are reported back to a future meeting of the board. Now, if you're happy to agree that, I'd like a proposer for that, Councillor Scobie, and a seconder, Councillor Wright. And we're happy to agree? Thank you. Agenda item 5 is the Highway Works Programme. Sorry, I'll just have to move down to that. Are there any comments on this programme? No? I do have some comments myself on this, and I will start with agenda item 5B, which, if we go through this, first of all, if you'd like me to go through them one by one, I'm happy to do so. The road, footway and cycleway renewal and preservation schemes, Appendix A. Were there any questions on that? No? Then we've got agenda item Appendix B, which is drainage repairs and improvements. Now, I'm not sure what other members think, but I notice that there are a lot of drainage problems all over Thanet, and many of them are seem to be caused by a lack of street clearing. If there aren't leaves to go down the drains, you don't get blocks. And that's something I think I personally would like to recommend that we note for TDC, that unfortunately some of that lack of cleaning of streets is causing extra costs in terms of drainage repairs when somebody else has to come out and clean the drains. And that seems to be a big problem now. I don't know if other members have also found that. Councillor Quitner.
We have a big problem with this in Middlesbrough. I mean, rural areas are all particularly badly affected in terms of trees and leaves and so on and so forth. I mean, my understanding of this is that a lot of this is contracted out. I mean, we've had instances in Minster whereby they'll come and clear a gully, and if another gully's brought to their attention like 20 feet away, they can't do it. It's not on their list, and there's all sorts of problems in that direction. But I mean, I did ask a long time ago about a schedule of gully cleaning, but that doesn't seem to exist. The only time they seem to come to our area, at least, is just on report of fault. So, yeah. I mean, is there any scheduled cleaning of the gullies? Do we know?
I don't know. Maybe you know. Sorry. Sorry.
It is KCC that do the gully cleaning. I don't believe there is a schedule for it. I believe that it is done on reports, but I can't say that for gospel truth. We can go back and ask that, so Stephen can do that as the minutes we'll take back and ask them.
I'll turn it round a little bit. Is there any schedule for street cleaning? Because it seems to me that, and this is TDC, and that's where the problem starts. the leaves are piling up on the pavements in the gutters, and then that's causing the problems with the gullies. And is there any programme of street cleaning, or is that something that's been left to fate? Maybe you can answer that.
I can do my best. Also don't know the actual answer. But yes, there is, excuse me, there is some schedule of street cleaning. I don't know what that is. It's not within my area of knowledge, but we will find that out and give it back to you when we know exactly what it is. I'm going to suggest that in terms of blocked gullies, it's going to take a year's worth of leaves to cause a blockage that then causes the road to flood. It's something that, yeah, definitely needs to be looked at as a whole with KCC, and we can take that forward.
I might discuss that with you at a later date on a year's worth of leaves, because I know from personal experience that it went from one winter to another in certain areas where there are lots of leaves. And I think it's used to be cleaned and isn't now. And of course there are other dangers, because if pavements aren't cleaned at all, those leaves become slippery. And if people slip, that's an insurance job, and that's going to come back to TDC.
I was going to say, we've had so much rain as well, so obviously the leaves are getting very slippery, and I have had residents, inquire about this, and we do have schedules, but they're intimate, you're not having it, it's not intermittent, I should say, so they're not as often as they should be, but there is a schedule for them. But obviously all the rain and all the leaves and the wind and everything we've had over the last month or so is obviously made it a lot worse. So, but that's not an excuse, it's just the way it is.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Going on, Appendix C is street lighting. Any comments on that part of the report? In which case we move on to 5D, which is casualty reduction measures. And you will note that Northdown Road is there. I'd rather save that for the next agenda item, but are there any other comments at all? No? Then we go on to Appendix C, which is developer funded works. I have one question. Sorry, any questions at all? I have one question which I will ask, but I suspect I will have to put that to an officer at KCC, which is, I noticed that Reading Street Road is on there, and as far as I know there are several, that along with other applications is still in appeal, so it almost looks as though it's awaiting submission. I'm not quite sure what awaiting submission is, but it's quite misleading, because it looks as though it would appear as though it's there as works to be done, but it may never get through. Is that correct? Do you know?
I don't.
You
know.
don't? No.
Sorry.
Okay, it's one that we'll have to ask, and if members are agreed, I will put those questions to the area manager. Okay? Agree? Yeah. Then I think that was the end of the appendices for that. Yep. In which case, if there are no other questions, this report is for information, so will members note the report? Happy to do so? Yeah, thank you. Moving on. I hate doing this. Looking at this at the same time is very, very difficult. We're moving on to agenda item 6, which is the casualty reduction measures for Northdown Road. Now, this has already been signed off. This was deferred from the last meeting. In June, we are noted down in one of the reports at KCC, we're noted down actually as having been in approving of this, supporting it certainly, and which is quite strange, because at the time the June committee actually said that they were quite interested in having 20-mile-per-hour signs there. Now this has been signed off already by the cabinet member to proceed. which does not mean that we can't comment on it. And most of the scheme should have been commented on earlier. We didn't. I see no reason why we can't put in our opinions. Even so, it's quite a lengthy scheme, and I don't know if everyone's ready to say that they approve of it or not. So I'd welcome any comments on this. Unfortunately, Councillor Lewis and Councillor Game aren't here, and it would affect their areas, I believe, more than anyone. Councillor Scobie, have you got anything to say on this?
No, I approve of the scheme. The only problem is not having officers here to question it, which is why it didn't get moved on.
Well, I'm not particularly happy that it's been signed off without any comments at all, and that I think is not acceptable. And I suspect that it's actually a governance issue for KCC, which I will be bringing up since I chair that committee. Councillor Fellows.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I presume everybody else got the email back on the 25th of October from a resident of Cliftonville, where he said that the shopkeepers in Cliftonville had received an email from KCC stating that the work was approved by the JTB on the 15th of October, which
Yes, which
is a
was,
lie.
of course, not true.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure everybody else was aware of that.
Yeah. I notice also that in the consultation, which was, I believe, 25 days, the 1st to the 25th of July, statutory is 21 days for a consultation. But actually, the report, which is here, it does say that it was recommended by the department that does these consultations, it was recommended to actually do a longer consultation. That was not carried out. It was not approved. There were a couple of things there as well that I found the impact on. There was no consideration of the impact on business. There was impact on residents, and possibly those who had mobility problems would have to walk a little further. But it was not mentioned at all in the consultation report or the impact report on equality. It was not mentioned at all that it might have an impact on businesses. Which I find surprising, because of course if you can't walk that far, you're not going to go to those businesses. The only thing that was said was that the total number of parking spaces in or round about Northdown Road would be more or less the same, which is not quite the same as being able to park on the street there. But I'm happy to take any other comments. If we have problems with this in any way, then it's not too late to put those comments in writing, even if it's been signed off. Because, as I said, I think that they should have had a better consultation than that. Okay, in which case we are asked to note that and move on to the next item. And the next item is agenda item 7, which is the proposed 20-mile-per-hour speed limit Salmston and Dane Valley. Again, this was supported by Councillor Lewis, who's not here. Has anyone else any comments to make on this? Councillor Fellows.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Can I just ask what the combined members grant will be for the coming year?
I don't know there will be one.
Okay, because I'm led to believe that this scheme's to be funded only from Councillor Lewis's combined member grant. So, I mean, I'm not sure how it's going to be funded if you're not getting one.
I don't know if there'll be one because the budget has not been set yet. There are divided opinions on that. I think it's fair to say. I noticed it costs 17,000. It covers a huge amount of Margate. Frankly, it's in an area where most of the speed surveys show that it's only viable because most people are doing about 24, 25 miles an hour anyway, and it costs £17,000, which actually I think is quite cheap considering how big, how vast the area is that it covers. And whilst I have no particular opinion on it myself, I just think that it's a very large area, and there's no funding for it. There is no funding from KCC, and I would suspect that there would not be enough funding in one member grant. Whether another Margate councillor or whether another KCC councillor with a member grant that would be prepared to support it, I don't know. Any other comments? No. Do we have a recommendation for this? Sorry?
Recommend the chair for the speed limit be made as advertised pending confirmed identification
Yeah, I've got to
of
find it
funding.
here, sorry.
4.1. Just before the map.
Right, here we go. Okay, the recommendation that the TRO for the speed limit be made as advertised pending confirmed identification of funding. To me, this is actually a waste of our time because without funding, it's going nowhere. And personally, I think, to start advertising something which nobody's going to fund, at least for the time being, is a difficult one. I mean, in no way to stop it if people feel that it's worth doing. But opinions, please. Councillor Scobie.
I definitely think it's worth doing in view of the family nature of the areas, and I think it's 3 primary schools, it says in the report. And it sets a tone for the rest of Thanet. I know that Ramsgate are pressing for a blanket 20-mile-per-hour speed limit, and as mentioned before, on North Down Road, we expressed an interest in a 20-mile-per-hour speed limit. It wasn't brought in. I think it's the way forward.
Thank you, Councillor Scobie. Councillor Carroll-Brown, you look as though you want to say something.
Right, Chair. Yeah, on the Thanet Area Board Committee, we're all for these 20-mile-an-hour zones, but as said before, it's a case of funding. Unfortunately, Margate Dane Valley haven't got a town council where they can get the funds from their precept.
Well, are members happy to recommend that they go ahead with this? Can I have that proposed then, that you would recommend that speed limit is advertised, or the TRO is advertised? Seconder? Councillor Scobie? Other members?
I also get very concerned over all these things.
Councillor
What's come
Quickly.
up for debate in the past is in terms of enforcement of all these areas that were introduced or trying to introduce. I mean, has there been any update on whether the police are going to get physically involved in enforcing these limits?
The reason that the KCC reason, or the highways reason, for only putting them in where people already are more or less obeying the speed limit, is that without enforcement, the signs are pretty much useless. And I will say that in many places, I would suspect, and I throw this open for comment, but I would suspect that in London, where they have a lot of 20 mile per hour, people would not be travelling 20 miles per hour at night time if they didn't know that there were cameras every few yards. So, and whilst I have no problem with the 20 mile per hour speed limit, I just question whether it's as useful as many think in an area where people are already travelling relatively slowly. The 4 or 5 miles per hour might or might not make a difference, I'm not sure. Councillor Scobie.
With things like the changes in the highway code, where we're supposed to respect pedestrians and respect cyclists and so on, I think it places a duty on KCC, TDC to actually address these issues in a positive way. And I think, you know, the 20 is plenty scheme has been vocal for a long time, and I think we're gradually creeping towards it. I believe that in Wales they're going to do a national 20 mile per hour speed limit, so it's coming everywhere. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a proposal, we have a seconder. Are we happy to agree? Read the recommendation? Okay, that is actually, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4 that agreed? Councillor Wright? Okay. Still the majority, so they disagreed that we go for the recommendation.
You're going to give it?
Hmm?
Are you going to give the recommendation?
We're going to give the recommendation, yeah. They have it here in writing, 4 to 3. Was that a negative or an abstention?
Yeah, sorry, Chair. I was just voting no until the funding is made available or identified. I don't think it's not worth giving any more work to our officers if the funding's not there to be found. So.
Thank you. Councillor Wright?
Well, I agree with Councillor Fellows.
Yeah. And I think it should be noted that 3 feel that until the funding is found, it is possibly not something that they would commit to for the time being. Okay, that, ladies and gentlemen, is the last agenda item. As said, it's not very satisfactory because we can't ask questions, and I think we have to look at ways of moving this forward so that we can get participation. Yes?
Sorry, it was just a quick before we close the meeting. For those of you that are interested, one of my colleagues who is watching online, hi Charles, has put through that it's the Local Government Act 1972 is what we have the meetings under. So if you want to look it up and read it, that's what it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would rather have them online and have people participating. And I'm not sure if that's the way forward, but I feel that if that is the way that we can do it, but unfortunately that's not very good for democracy. It means that the public can only, well, unless the public can watch but not have any input as such, unless they're invited to speak. But I just feel that we have to move this forward. We can't just continue to not say anything. Councillor Crittenden.
Is there a big problem with having it in the daytime?
As I suggested, we could have it in the daytime. And then that is accessible to everyone if we had it in the daytime. Apart from members.
Childcare or grandchild care.
That is true. But they are only once every 3 months, so it's, you know, it's not something that springs up every week or something. But that is a way forward. And I think it's something that I'd be happy for you to think about and come back to me on. And I'll put that forward. That would get officers here. Okay.
I would only be able to do mornings.
Thank you, Councillor Scobie.
It's afternoon school pickup and an afternoon nursery pickup, so...
Yeah. As I said, it is only once every 3 months. We're not talking about a regular basis. Anyway, but let me know what you think. I'll be, I would appreciate that, an email, something, or a phone call, please. Okay, thank you very much for attending tonight. Meeting is closed.